All right. Greetings, everybody. Repeat here. We're waiting on our guest Paco to come back. We got on together live about half an hour ago. Everything was good. He went away for a couple minutes to after the sound check, and things have been weird ever since. So he's rebooting and trying to come back on. Sorry for the delays. We were all ready to go at the top of the hour, and his computer went, yeah, I don't think so. If you had another guess. So he'll be good when he gets here. Fig's at home. I'm at home. Looks like Styx is at home. And Bago decided that family birthdays are more important than the show.
Daughter's birthdays, which is just total bullshit.
Right? I mean, our show here, Bago.
Right?
Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
Over.
Ah,
I mean,
man.
I gave up yard work.
Right?
I put a pause on yard work.
I gave up cleaning out the garage. I put this first.
The one thing I'm going to say in Bago's defense, I guarantee you the moment we confront his daughter with this, we're all going to just shut up and say, okay, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
thanks for
since he's
bringing
not
us
here-
back to reality,
They're
Sticks.
cute kids. Yeah, I know. That's okay.
He's not here to defend himself.
That's my job. Get over it.
We need to throw him under the bus and stomp
right.
on him as much as possible right
Put
now.
that effer in reverse and back over his ass.
Marine, he could take it.
That's right. Oh, man. We're excited about some potential upcoming guests, though. I talked to a gent earlier today who was a Blue Angel, flew their second, third, and fourth seasons in the A4. Had some combat missions in Vietnam, almost flamed out in South Vietnam. Let's see. It ejected from an A4 while waiting to start the Phantom Rag. So yes, it's a good story or two.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. And then Luke gave us a bunch of names yesterday. Bless you. Damn. Luke gave us an astronaut, a Blue Angel, and someone else.
I hear a blip.
He's trying.
Yeah, but his camera and his mic aren't connected yet. Here we go.
Jim Bosworth says he's juggling yard work, the garage, and listening to us all at the same time.
Well, there's that.
Called multitasking.
Yeah.
My wife thinks I can't do that.
Okay,
She thinks I'm
could happen.
incapable. Holy shit, this looks good.
Paco, can you hear us? Uh-oh. We can't hear you. Say something, Lenny.
Oh,
Oh, this is bad.
I don't know what's going on.
Hey,
Oh, there
I
we
heard
go.
you for the first time.
There we go.
This is good.
That's a
This is
little-
progress.
We are
Holy
live
crap.
streaming, so if you say fuck, the whole world's going to hear you say it. So, just so you know.
Okay. Sorry about that.
It's okay. This is an explicit. This is explicit content.
Yeah. Now, you are not, let me see. Your camera is not high def, right? You're like 720 or
Whatever the standard def is. It's not even 720. I think it's just 420. I can dial it up,
Okay.
maybe. I don't know. Whatever you want.
no, because you're just a little jittery. I'm not. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It was working fine when you and I were testing it before, but
It was, and I'm concerned. But let's see. It says we're
That's a cuss word.
recording. Yeah.
I'm concerned.
Says he's uploading though, and you're using Edge or Chrome.
Chrome.
Okay. And let's see. All right. Well,
Let's try this.
let's try it. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking I'm going to do. So I'm going to play some music. And when it fades, and he says, so there I was crossing the pond, and you could tell that I wasn't exactly fond. If you would jump in with your so there I was story. And then then I'll pick it up from you, introduce myself, Fig will introduce himself, and then hand it back to you, and we'll go from there. So, yeah. Chemo's out pissing in your backyard, apparently, trying to destroy your internet connection.
Probably. I wouldn't put it past him.
There you go. All right. So let me.
It's done.
Yeah, let me redo everything, and here we go. We're gonna make it happen.
Holy shit, Paco! I'm excited.
Here we
Badass is here.
go. Nice.
Brad Silcott.
Yep. Here we go.
Okay.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
You gotta push the button.
This here is a true story about crossing the pond at night in the world's smallest cockpit on the tanker through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that, thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the...
Howdy. This is Paco Kirichi. Pleased to be here on There It Was.
Awesome.
So-
Glad to have you. So there I was. How all great aviation tales begin. Greetings, everybody. Repeat here, coming to you from New Hampshire today. Where's my co-host Fig? Did you make it home?
I did. It was late, but I made it home. I am back in God's country, Kearney, Missouri, just outside Kansas City. And I am happy to welcome, oh shit, where'd he go?
This is not good.
He is Gone gone.
Gone.
Well, I was
When?
about to introduce Paco
Yeah.
from
Of chemo fame.
From the last episode with chemo, Paco came up a lot, so we thought, you know what, we probably ought to get Paco on.
Defend his
He
honor.
is gone.
He is gone. Let me see.
He
if he's,
went bingo out. We've been having some technical difficulties here
This is
with him
good.
on his
Yeah.
end, so I don't know what's going on here. I'm going to blame chemo for this, even
Right.
though,
Chemo's out in Paco's backyard pissing on his internet connection.
yeah. He's jamming.
Son of a bad
He's jamming
word.
him.
Damn.
Well, let's
he's
see why
really
we're
Yeah.
waiting for Paco to maybe vaporize back in the picture. Should we say hello to anybody?
Yeah, well, you know, yeah, let's there's a couple things we could chat about. And of course, this is just for live folks, and I'm going to obviously take this down because but we've got some new Patreons. We got in fact, he's on made a couple comments here earlier. His email had DIZ in it, so I have call sign Dizzy, one of our new section leads. And that's, I have no idea how to butcher your name, but I'm about to try it here. Give me just a second to get back to comments.
Dicey-do? Is it Joe Dicey-do?
Yeah, Joe Dicey-do. Dizzy.
Dicey-do? Dizzy
Dizzy's a
Dicey-do?
new section
Yeah.
lead.
I like
Yeah.
that. Dizzy is good. That's a good call sign.
And then we got
Thank
JP
you, sir.
Sullivan, who's a new pilot, call sign Tycoon, as in JP Morgan. Tycoon. And Kevin Glazer's a new pilot on Patreon. I don't know, Glazer, Shatter, as in glass.
Glazer.
Yeah,
Laser Glazer.
yeah. Or it could be like Starsky and Hutch. Wasn't Hutch?
Yeah.
Wasn't he Glazer?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. And then here's one, Chelsea. I got no idea. Chelsea's the new pilot.
One name, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a tough one. Try
Yeah.
to keep politics out of it, So
Chelsea could be like a guy's name or a woman's name. Could be like a boy named Sue.
yeah, or a bar, the
Right?
Chelsea. I used
the
to
old
drink at the
Chelsea.
Chelsea when I was in college.
Yeah, there was a place in Kansas City called the Old Chelsea.
Yeah,
It was a gentleman's club, I think. I heard, allegedly.
right. Not that you ever went there, but you knew someone who did. I bet.
Yeah, so I just got a text from Paco. He says, what's he saying here? It was to both of us. Effing computer went black. He's scrambling.
Yes, it did.
Well,
Yeah. Well, we're having fun with this in the meantime. Then we have Rob Denver Chief is also a new pilot on Patreon. So in the last week and a half, we've gotten what's that? Five new people because I can't count that high.
that's truly incredible.
Yeah. And we got a couple 5-star ratings, but I can't find them right now because I'm,
Are those ratings on Apple Podcast?
They are. And if you go to sothereiwas.us/rate, you too can give us a 5-star rating. Oh,
So I was going to suggest while we're waiting here for Paco to try and get back on, if any of our guests have an idea of like a show or something that they want us to do, even if it's something slightly off the beaten path of, what we've been doing with stories, if you want us to cover something like on current events or comment on something, comment on a movie, I don't know.
there you go.
I would suggest we could be open to suggestions. There's Paco.
How we doing?
He's back.
How
I'm
we
back,
doing
I
now?
think.
He's back.
He is back. And he actually sounds better than he did before.
I'm getting an echo.
Okay, stand by.
It's probably your speakers on your computer. Yeah.
I'm going to take myself back off the stage again. Go back into the
All right,
hole in the
Sticks.
back.
Thank
we
you,
miss
sir.
you. We miss you, Sticks.
Let me make
That's
sure.
okay. You won't really. That's a lot.
That's not true.
Yeah, I don't know what.
Well, you
no,
sound
happened,
good.
man.
Yeah,
sound
seems
good.
better now. You aren't jittery or anything. So that's
And-
good news. So we're
and there's
gonna
no echo.
we're gonna reattack this pig. I'm gonna reset the timer.
I have very low confidence at this point.
Yeah,
I don't know what's
well,
going on.
There's that.
All right, Paco, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do take 2. So here's the deal.
Hold on one second. Before we do anything crazy, let me make sure this thing is actually charging properly.
Okay. Yeah, that would be bad to lose you in the mid-show.
Oh yeah, that would be bad.
I don't know what's going on. Sorry, guys. I literally, when we did that sound check, everything was great, and now
Yeah. You sound good now.
I know, but it's not. It doesn't appear to be charging.
What's that?
Makes
Your
me
laptop?
nervous. Yeah, for some reason I don't know why. It's just
How
yeah,
much charge do you have?
1%. Well, I don't know where.
That's-
Here we go. Okay, now it's charging.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
1% is not good. All right, want to brief him up there? Oh, and I forgot to mention, we're going to have an ad. It's going to be 2 minutes and 21 seconds
Okay,
in the middle of the show.
I can
right,
handle that.
So we're gonna run the theme song again, and when he says "so there I was" and the music starts fading, that's
Yep.
when you come in and say "so there I was" and kind of tease a story. So there I was, 50,000 feet, nothing running but my wristwatch. When I look down and I realize, I've got no motor running or whatever. Just tease
We're
it.
upside down off the side of a runway in an F5.
In an F5,
Okay.
yeah, and then
So you
we'll
guys-
come back. We'll come back to it later and let you finish that.
Okay, I got you now.
Yeah, so tease that story. All right, here we go. I'm
I'm
resetting.
carrying this whole show, by the way. Clearly,
It's okay. It's okay.
Clearly,
We're gonna get through
that's
this.
okay.
We're
So
gonna
there
get
we
through
go.
this.
All right, we're gonna hit it again, and we're starting here now.
Hit that shit. Hit
Quiet,
it.
numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
All right.
This here is a true story about crossing the pond
Win.
at night in the world's smallest cockpit, on the tanker, through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that, thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond.
So there I was, hanging upside down in a cockpit with a broken canopy sticking my neck like a knife, wondering how I got there.
Oh, and that's how great aviation tales begin. So there I was, repeat here, folks. Welcome this afternoon, coming to you from Lee, New Hampshire, and I think my co-host Fig made it home last night.
I'm
You there
home.
at home.
I am. God's country, Kearney, Missouri, just outside Kansas City. But more importantly, I want to say welcome to our guest today, Paco. And Paco, welcome, sir. Where are you coming from?
Just south of San Francisco, beautiful California.
Nice.
Thanks. Happy to be here. Toast to you
Excellent.
boys.
Cheers, brother. Well, here's the thing. You know, we had to have you on because our guest Chemo a few episodes ago threw you under the bus. I don't know how many times. So we thought we'd give
Just
you
to
a chance
defend your honor.
to come back and defend your honor, and then most likely we're going to have a 2v2 or a 1v1 with you and Chemo on, so we could hash it all out. But anyway, welcome, sir. We
Glad to be here.
we always ask, how is it that you got interested in aviation? How did you get your
That's
start?
a good question. You know, when I talk at events and stuff like that, I tell people like there's no such thing as an accidental fighter pilot, but I'm probably as close as you can get. I had no military in my family, no aviation background or anything. I joined the ROTC because I needed money for college, probably like a lot of people, certainly my generation. And at the time, you know, there was 3 or 4 avenues upon graduation. You can go be a surface guy, drive submarines, you could be a Marine, or you could be an aviator. Again, I knew nothing about the military, nothing about the Navy. And the summer of my sophomore year, so rising junior year, I got a backseat ride on an F-14. And
Damn.
it was like it's a much longer story than that, but it was like taking my first hit of heroin and I was done.
Right.
Immediately
hooked.
Yeah, I mean, for a long time before that, I thought, well, I want to lead men, I want to be a Marine, or want to go into business. Maybe leadership training as a SWO would be a great thing to do. And those are all valid things. But once I got that hit of the heroin, that as Chemo calls it, that JP5 crack pipe,
That's good.
Right.
I was done. I was hooked, and that's all I ever wanted to do from that point on. So,
well, I totally get that.
Yeah.
So graduated with Naval ROTC, commissioned, and then went to Pensacola.
Straight to Pensacola. I sat around in a huge pool for 4 or 5 months, and then one day there's probably 200 ensigns, maybe not that many, but it seemed like that many in this huge room. I was in there with my buddies, and the guy comes in and goes, "All right, we got another 6 weeks before any of you start here in Pensacola, or they're taking a handful to go to Corpus Christi." And we all kind of locked eyes and raised our hands, and off we went, and got little townhouses on the intercoastal there, got a ski boat, and started primary right away.
Horrible.
It was horrible.
Right. Always
Hey,
glad
what-
to have a fellow VT-27 boomer on the show with us.
Yeah. What year was that, Paco, that you went
Oh
down?
man, are we talking
primary?
years? It was
Just give me a ballpark. here.
1988. March of '88 is when I had my first T-34 flight.
Wow.
We were there at the same
Yeah.
time.
Oh
Was
yeah,
it
okay, we're all the
Cincy?
same generation. You guys,
Yeah,
Well,
Cincy was the CO then.
yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I see.
remember his
Crazy.
one of his speeches he gave to us. It was I'll never forget it. In fact, I've used it with my kids. Not the exact
Yeah.
verbiage, but just the gist of it was he he had us all in a room, and he's like, when I was your age, we'd get drunk at the club on a Friday night. Everybody jump in their brand new Corvettes. We'd race each other to New Orleans. We'd lose a couple along the way, pick up a couple cases, drink, and drive back. If you do that now, I cannot save you. You're dead.
Yeah.
You're done
Yeah.
with the Navy. And I
Yeah.
was like, wow,
Yep.
I get it. I mean, times change.
Yeah.
You know, obviously it's a good thing that they changed, but it was an important lesson for a 21-year-old to hear. And it was great. I remember him. He was a great CO.
He was a great CO.
Yeah.
I just found out I guess it's been close to 2 years ago now. I just found out he passed with a bad cancer. But I was
Is there a
talking
good cancer?
My son went to the National Flight Academy, which is an aviation camp they hold at the Naval Aviation Museum at NAS Pensacola. And we were out to dinner after we got him back, and he said, "Oh, that's one of the counselors over there, one of the group leaders." And the guy came over, and it turned out he was also a P3 driver. And I asked him if he knew Cinzy, and he almost fell over. He's like, "He's my best friend in the world."
Wow.
And and then he told me of the sad news of his passing. But yeah, what a great guy. And he said, "I can't save you if you do that," but I saw him save a couple guys, and I've told that story on here before,
Oh, really?
so I won't do that again. But yeah, he was a great leader, and he gave a damn about his sailors and Marines. So
You know, that's one of the things that I miss, and there's a lot of things I miss about being in the Navy, but one of them was just like the quality of the people, top to bottom, that really gave a damn. And cared about their people, and gave out really valuable life lessons, things that make a difference.
yeah,
So a toast to him.
Here,
Indeed.
toast. Here's a Cincy.
to Cincy. Here's to Cincy.
Well, when we're all same time frame, Paco. I was sitting in the pool in Pensacola waiting to start AI in March of '88. I just finished the basic school and all that. All right, so you triggered a memory. You went to Pensacola. I stayed there, and when we went to Whiting Field and checked in at primary, the base commander, this Navy captain, he comes in and he said, "There's maybe 20 of us in this room," and he goes, "Okay, here's the deal. I want you to walk on the grass. We have nice green grass. We water it here on the base. I want you to walk on it. If you want to walk on the grass. I want you to go to the club on Friday night. I want you to drink at the club. You can drive all over this base after you drink at the club. Nobody's going to bother you, but you leave this base after you've been drinking, I can't help you."
Yeah.
That's what it's going.
Yeah. Wow. It's different now.
Yeah. Too bad. And then you went to Kingsville. You were a Kingsville guy. I saw in the notes you had some Doobie Dubois on you.
Yeah. Oh, that was such a great time. Again, I mean, some amazing stories in Kingsville. It was an eye opener for me. Again, I had never freaking flown an airplane before sitting in that T-34. So I show up in Kingsville. I've got, what did we have in the T-34? Like 80 hours total.
Yeah, maybe 50, 75, 80. I have no idea.
Yeah. So for people that
probably
aren't
close.
familiar, the T-34 is a single-engine turboprop, pretty high performance, little two-seat trainer.
Beechcraft, made by Beechcraft.
Yep.
There it is up there.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, that sounded
Crash.
That's already
Something crashed.
something for me to fix. Yeah, so we show up in Kingsville. I've got less than 100 hours total flight time.
Yeah.
The things happen fast and furious. A month of ground school and sims and stuff like that to get started, and then you go right into FAMS, and it's, I think that by the 13th flight you're in your first solo flight in a jet.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
So maybe you have 100 hours. I don't know, somewhere around 100 total flight hours in my entire life. Feeling like the king of the world,
Right.
Because I'm 22 years old, which is
Flying
the
a jet.
dumbest time in a man's life, I think. But anyway,
Yes.
it's like that curve of competency and confidence, the inverse curves. But feeling like the king of the world, go out and I'm flying this T2 alone, and I'm killing it. I feel like, no, that's T45. and I feel like, like I'm a natural born pilot, and I'm doing all the stuff I'm supposed to do, and then a few of the things I'm not supposed to do. And Kingsville, like right off the bat, like you could tell when you checked in, it was the Wild West. There was people were coming into the break in A4s at whatever you could get, which was a lot in a slick A4 with
600 plus knots, man.
Yep. And in the T2, you could get 450, if you did it right, at the initial 6 miles or so and dump it over, and again, I think I've got 15 hours in a T2 and I'm coming to the break solo. And I'd noticed when I was flying it around that it was kind of bent. And, in a jet, for those of you that don't know, you don't really trim much. There's not a lot of trimming. But I noticed, there we go. The pregnant guppy, the ugly Buckeye. But it was a great plane, man. I had so much fun in that thing.
You couldn't beat it to death with a sledgehammer.
No.
It was tough.
You could do anything you wanted. So anyway, I'm flying around the area and I noticed, wow, I got to trim this thing. It's weird. But anyway, of course, I dumped that memory. It's all trimmed over 250 knots. Come back into the break. I'm doing 450, and I go to the break. The carry brake again, 800 feet, right hand brake for whatever reason, and about 90 degrees through, and I see the altimeter needle start to drop just a hair. So I put in a little left altimeter, and the plane rolls. I'm sorry, left aileron, and the plane rolls right. And I freeze, and I'm doing 400, maybe just under 400 knots now, 800 feet over the ground, descending, pulling 6 Gs, and I have no idea what to do. I don't know what's going on. I've only flown for 100 hours in my life. And I'm pointed 90 away from the tower. I'm like, so I do a little, and the nose is still dropping, so I put a little bit more in, and it rolls a little bit more to the right. And I'm like, holy fuck.
You're winding
the wrong way
up, man.
Yeah.
So thank God, I don't know how I thought to do this because I didn't have the breadth of knowledge or experience, but I ruddered it wings level.
All right.
Nice.
Something came out of the sky and said, "Hey, why don't you use your feet there?"
Step on
But
that
I'm still pulling though, right? I'm still kind of pulling.
Oh no.
And I ruddered at wings level, and so now, and I'm about 30 degrees nose down, and I'm headed away from the field. And Tyler's like, "Hey, are you okay?" And I'm like, yeah, I just got to depart and re-enter. So I departed and came back in for the break again. And I was just slower this time. And so I got on deck and I was telling somebody about this because I didn't even know what to write up in in the maintenance form. I'm like, plane rolls left when, or rolls right when left aileron.
Your damn jet's broke.
Yeah. And it took a little while, but somebody finally went up and flew it, and it was so bent. That plane had probably been flown, like the spin training that they'd done.
Inverted spin training was bent
that from 250 to 450 knots, it was a full ball deflection.
Oh my god,
a whole ball. So I was basically coming into the break in a slip and had no idea. But I survived that, and nobody cared. It was fine. They were like, "Don't do that again." Yeah. Nobody even. I don't think anybody even said, "Don't do that again." There we go. Yes, except it was to the right. Yeah. That's pretty good. That's quick thinking there.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's that's for those watching live stream. Styx is putting it up on the carrier pattern up on the.
And with a prop too. That's very impressive.
Oh yeah,
that's
right.
Impressive.
Looks like a T-28 or something like that. So,
Bearcat.
Yeah. So,
wow.
Hey, I'll mention it just real quick, Paco. You're tapping on something on the table and it's coming through a lot. So if you could be conscious of that, maybe that may be it. I don't know. Just be aware. So we're good. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
so you survived your T2 attempted departure, in spite of your best efforts.
The buffoonery got even. I don't know if it's worse or better. It was.
The buffoonery got better.
Like I said, Kingsville was the Wild West. I don't know. Where did you guys go from T-34s? Not Kingsville.
I went from Corpus up to Beeville, and I think Fig was a Meridian.
I was a Meridian, but I spent 3 years in Kingsville after my first gun squadron tour as an instructor. Dubois was still there, as a matter of fact. Yeah. Doobie was the well, he couldn't be in command of anything because he was an ADO, but he He kind of
kind
ran
of
the,
commanded the base
Yeah.
and the squadron.
he ran the strike instructor training school, and so he drafted me back to there, and that's where I spent basically my 3 years in Kingsville, was working there.
Oh, dude, I
under
have
him.
the funniest. I mean, I don't know how deep dive into like nitty gritty aviation stuff you guys want to hear, but I have the funniest Dubois story.
Let's do
Let's
it.
hear it. Let's hear it.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite. Like when I think about this, it brings me to tears, laughter. So it was the I don't know, 2 weeks after this event that I just told you about. So now I'm even more cocky and more comfortable. I'm doing the formation solo, which comes right after FAM. So again, I've 110 hours maybe. It's my
You're an old salt now, brother.
dude. You'll hear how old salty I got. So it's 3 of my classmates, super good buds, who I'm still really close with today. The -1 is an instructor and an instructor under training in the front seat.
Yeah.
I'm -2. My buddy is -3 with Montana in the back. And then there's another buddy of ours who's -4. And we're all sitting in the briefing and we're kind of nervous, but, you know, stupid cocky.
Okay.
The instructor under training comes in. He's like, all right, you know, here's what we're doing. He's got this very formal brief, and there's no Montana. He doesn't show up. We're kind of wondering what happens. And he comes in, he like kicks a door in 15 minutes late, smoking. And he interrupts everything. He goes, he's the lead. He's the senior guy. He's like, here's the way it's going to work. Who's -2? And he looks at me and I, raise my hand. He's like, if you join on -1 before we join on you, you get an above. And if you join on him before he joins on -1, you get an above. And then he looks at the last dude. And he's like, you got it? And we're all like, yes. Yep. And he's like, all right, let's go. We walk out the room. I will never forget like that big game energy. You know, it's just like 3 dudes. We're about to play like the Super Bowl, basically. And we're all giggling and elbowing each other in the ribs. And we go down, we change, and we get in the jets. And we could fit 4 T2s on the runway. And, you know, it's a 10-second go. And I'm looking back at my buddies and, you know, looking forward, looking back and looking forward. I'm full power. The lead goes. And I'm like 10, 9, 8, 3, 2, 1, I'm going. I go maybe 5 seconds, 5-second go. I take off, or I release the brakes. And I do the coolest low transition I've ever done in my entire life because I need to catch the lead. I'm maybe 10 feet off the runway, suck up the gear, you know, accelerating to whatever the work epi would get. And I'm climbing away, looking back, and I see the other 2 dudes, and they're right there. And I'm looking back and looking forward, and looking back and looking forward, looking back, looking forward. And all of a sudden, my lead is like expanding in my field of view
Exponentially.
in a terrifying way.
You got a lot of closure.
Like, I probably had 100 knots of closure.
Oh, boy.
And I didn't pop the brakes, but I did the the T2 cross control thing, and I'm bumping off the idle stops. I'm trying not to be the worst -2 on the planet, but, you know, bumping, and there's just no way to save it. And I underrun. And I'm like, I
Underrun.
feel
Shit. You're like, that's it.
It's like, you know, you just threw a touchdown and somebody intercepts it and they run it back for a touchdown. It's the height of joy to the depths of despair. I come up on the radio like a good suit and I'm like, -2's underrunning. And literally the second I release the mic, I hear -3's underrunning, -4's over the top. Like, it was just the biggest fucking exploding cantaloupe. You know, my buddies were following me, and the last guy, JR Gear, was so acute and so fast. He literally did a canopy roll over the formation and settled.
Oh, my gosh.
On the far side.
It looked like a fleur-de-lis.
So I was going to say, so you guys did a fleur-de-lis in the T2.
It had to have been the coolest, ugly rendezvous ever. And Dubois never said anything. Nothing.
Oh.
The instructor, I wish I had like a heat, you know, an IR thermometer on the canopy of the lead aircraft, because the instructor that was teaching the IUT his head must have exploded, because we just like slowly re-rendezvoused, went on with the breakups and rendezvous, and you know,
That's awesome, man.
and then came back and landed.
Now
And
fucking standing. Oh,
we're sitting in the debrief, and we're just waiting like nervously. And
Yeah. How
Dubois
bad is this
walks
going to go?
in, and he's like, "All right, good job." Everybody walks out, and we're like high-fiving each other. And the instructor gets up. His face is as red as your shirt. He gets up and he slams the door shut. And he's like, "If you fuckers ever do anything like that again, I'm gonna have your asses." And we're out of there. I mean, and that was Kingsville in a nutshell.
You know, okay, real quick before we get too far downrange, there's a couple terms you used. We are all familiar that we have some listeners that are not aviation people, but they love stories. So
Okay.
can you define what an well, first of all, 10-second go. What is that about?
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're doing a formation takeoff, the standard in the Navy is your lead releases his brakes and lights the burners or whatever is at full power and starts rolling down the runway. And you're going to lose sight of him, perhaps, or he's trundling down the runway, and you want to give him enough separation and time to abort if there's something wrong with his airplane. So you give him roughly 10 seconds. You start counting in your head 10 seconds. And then you release your brakes and start rolling down the runway. And then however many people are in your flight, do the same thing. So there's a 10-second separation between, there should have been a 10-second separation between all four of the T2s. There's no chance it was more than 5 for any of us. So that the opportunity to have a controlled professional rendezvous evaporated instantly.
Yeah.
It-
And obviously
in
the
5 short potatoes.
The shorter the shorter the space, the quicker you're going to get joined up. That's why because you wanted to get joined up fast. That's why you did.
Well, yeah, I was told by the lead
Yeah.
that if I joined up before, they did, I would get an above, which is all you care about when you're a flight student. You want to excel. So
Yeah,
Right.
we all have it at one time or not. But probably have gone 10-second go, 10-second go, and then it's 5, 1, 2, 10. All right. The second thing is underrun. What describe what an underrun is?
Because there is no underrun in the blues per law.
no,
Yeah, he's looking for models. He's looking for
Hack it
just
or
use your
go
hands.
away.
Hey, just do the fighter pilot thing and use your hands.
Yeah, just
really
don't
cool
shoot your
models
watch.
there, though. All right. All right. So here we go. Hands. Your lead is setting the formation, and then everybody
Using
else.
a 30-degree bank turning.
30-degree bank, 250 knots, and dash 2 is supposed to come up on bearing line, which is the proper line that you should, fly formation off, whatever.
Yeah.
It's different for every airplane. And you get up on altitude and sort of drive yourself in a very controlled manner until you're in position. And then depending on whether or not you have to balance it, you can cross over to the other side. So you're nice and controlled. If you are coming up along that bearing line at a rate of closure that is so high that, there we go, thank you, that is so high
All right,
that you
Sticks.
can't,
Sticks has it up on the screen.
this is insanely good,
Yeah.
that you can't stop yourself in position, you underrun. And everybody has had an underrun. Often it's so subtle that you're like, oh, I just joined on the left side because I meant to.
Yeah.
But I underran so far, I was probably a quarter mile away. And then my other buddy, he was chasing me and he ended up on
So
the left
he's
side.
underrunning you. Oh,
And then the
man.
last guy literally went over the top of the whole formation. Like, I'll never forget. I went from like,
Yeah.
this is so cool to like, oh my God, I'm so fucked. I'm going to get
We're all
under
gonna
below.
die. We're all going to die.
And no, I never, ever, ever thought that. I thought when I saw him going up over the top, doing a canopy roll over the top of us, I'm like, yes, I'm back in the game.
Right?
That's awesome.
There you go. And I
Thank
can't get
you.
it down before he does.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
and the
Thank
cool
you
thing,
for
so the
that.
thing about the canopy roll though, that's actually kind of safe because now what he's doing is keeping everybody in sight. It's safer, I should say. It's
It
keeping
was
everyone in sight
intuitively
because he
very
doesn't go
safe.
belly up over the top where he can't see anybody and stands a good chance of ramming them. So
Yeah. And we're still pretty low. Like, I don't know, the T2 didn't climb out that fast. So we're probably at 2,500 feet. So if he had also underrun, he was probably a little nervous about being too low.
Thank
So,
you,
but it was
Stick.
it was a very aggressive maneuver for people that had only been flying for 100 hours.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for that. That's a great story. And for another time, I'll tell you my Dubois story. It's pretty epic.
I've got a few. I mean, he was just insanely
Well, so
prolific.
I'll tease it. I'm not going to tell it, but I'll tease it.
Yeah.
Somebody said one of the old guys that was retired at this point, but he was working on the King Ranch. It might have been Montana or one of those other guys says, "Hey, next time you're around Doobie, if he's had a couple drinks, get him to tell you his shoot Vietnam getting shot down story."
Oh,
And so at a retirement party, when the timing was right, I walked up to him and said, "Hey, man, tell me about being shot down in Vietnam." And it was a hell of a story.
wow. Okay.
Is he still with us?
I don't know.
I can't.
I don't know if he is or not. If he
Yeah.
listen. So this was 93, 94 time frame, and he was probably in his late 40s, early 50s, and he looked like he was about
70.
yeah,
312.
he lived hard. He was a heavy smoker, a heavy drinker.
Okay.
He was the classic old Navy fighter pilot guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably still with us then.
Probably
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
I doubt it, but I hope he is.
All right. So in the notes, was it the T2 boat you guys were RTBing from, or was it the A4 boat?
No, I was squared away by the time I got to A4. As all my shenanigans were in the T2, man. Yeah, we were. That's another Montana story. We're coming back from the boat and doing CQ, and I mean, I don't know if you remember much about your T2 CQ. I know what happened. I don't have a lot of memory.
Yeah, we did ours down in Key West because it was too. Well, we had to go to Key. We had to the plane was or the boat was in the Gulf, and the
Right.
Lex was broke, so we were using the Kennedy.
Okay. Yeah, I did Lex for both T2s and A4s, which is I think it's pretty cool at this point.
Yeah.
But I don't remember anything about it until like my second trap. We do what, 4 touch and goes, was it? And 6 traps or something like that? Or
I thought it was
two touch and
I thought-
goes, and
I thought it was 2 and 4 on the T2.
yeah, no, you're right. Because we
And then
needed
2
10
and 6
total.
in
10
once we
total,
got
yeah.
to the scooter.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it was my second trap where the boss is like, "Okay, buddy, you can pull the power back. We don't need any more, knots
yeah,
on the
right.
ship or something like that."
Ship's
That's
going
when-
fast enough.
That's when that like a scene in a movie where like whoosh, you come right back into your brain, because I do not remember my first.
oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that was my first trap on the.
Uh-huh.
That was my very first trap. You just described it.
Yeah.
I forgot to lock my harness.
Yeah.
My helmet banged off the gun sight. All the sweat on my face went onto the visor.
That's
and of
awesome.
course, we're already reflex trained, full power boards in. Of course, you're not going anywhere. And then the voice of God came over my headset, which was the boss.
Yep.
"We got you, son. You can pull the power back now."
Yeah.
And that's when it kind of snapped me back, right? And then I saw the dude waving at me, telling me to get my hook up
Yeah.
get out of the way because here comes my buddy.
I might have gotten one of these too. Get you.
Yeah. So, all right, we got to describe that then. So, it's the one
extract the
hand
cranium.
is holding horizontal to the deck. The other hand comes up in a fist underneath it and then pulls down
In
rapidly,
a removing motion.
Yeah. which means get your head out of your ass. It's a hand signal.
Kid.
rectal cranial inversion.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sticks.
Yeah. Anyway, so I finished CQ, and again, it's like going through flight training is such a gamut of emotions, man. It's like stress, anxiety, excitement, and then like elation, and we were told, I can't remember when we told, maybe they didn't tell us, but there was definitely a sense like, okay, you're done and you're a qual. I don't think they told us because somebody had messed something up in the A4.
Right. They didn't want you to know.
They didn't want you to know, but
Yeah, they
you
wouldn't tell
kind
us
of
till we
knew.
got back.
Yeah, but you kind of had a sense, I think, because I knew I didn't bolt her. Nobody screamed at me other than the boss telling me to slow down or pull the power back. So take off to go back to Kingsville, rendezvous with 3 other dudes, and Montana's bringing us back to Kingsville, and it was just like the adrenaline's leaching out of your body and you're still like super high. Come into the break at Kingsville and the tower goes, we're all like, all four of us are, in the pattern, about to touch down or at the 180. Basically, we're all pretty tight. And Tower comes up and says, whenever we were -1 go around, and there's somebody blew a tire on the runway, and Dubois, who was like the opso for the base at the time, was like, negative. These boys are just CQ'd at the boat. We're all land on the left side, boys. And we all said, okay. We all just touched down one after another on the left side. And you could see the big chunks of rubber on the right side of the runway. We're like, well, whatever. He's in charge.
Yeah.
Right.
That sounds about right.
Put the airplane where they want it.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of runway. You don't need all that runway. I mean, come on.
No.
But that's something that, if you're if you're a pilot of any sort, that is, anathema, right? Like overriding the tower to do whatever it is you want to do.
Yep. Well, he kind of operated by different rules, and he got away with it.
He did.
For the most part. Okay. I'm not going to go into him because I want to hear more about you. So before you got out of T2s, usually the last thing we do in T2s is DQ. Did anybody from your class or anybody while you were in T2s jump out of a T2 while you're in Kingsville?
We had a lot of mishaps. My whole aviation career was sort of, I experienced a lot of loss and a lot of mishaps. So there was a bunch of stuff. I don't even remember. There was, A4s that were falling out of the sky and T2s that were crashing and stuff. We lost a guy that was a couple classes ahead of me that went up to Beeville on a night cross country and forgot to check the tip tank on that T2 and took off and rolled it. So yeah, there was a lot of, I don't even remember how many there were.
For a while in Meridian, the joke amongst us was people that lived under the MOA. I think the town of, there was Philadelphia, Mississippi. There was a movie about Mississippi burning. It happened in Philadelphia, but the MOA, the Meridian MOA, was over basically the center of that. Anyway, we were dropping airplanes all around the town of Philadelphia. So the joke was when people go out in the morning to get the paper, they'd look up real quick to make sure nothing's coming out of the sky. Yeah, right. The day I checked in up there, there was a midair and two T2s crashed. Everybody jumped out, and then when I was in T2s in the early phases, like in FAMS, two of my classmates died. They had midair. They were with instructors, and the two airplanes came together in the MOA, and three guys died. It was holy shit. I know. All right, so what about A4s? A4s.
So real quick, a term MOA is a military operations area. It's airspace.
It's military airspace. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. A4s was pretty. Things got cleaned up by then. It was still, kind of crazy. There was a lot of my peers. So there was this program in the Navy, which 99% of people didn't want, where if you were a really highly qualified student, but not the top of your class, there was a chance you could get plowed back to be a surgrad.
Oh yeah.
And I had a ton of friends, like drinking buddies at the club, who are all of a sudden 6 weeks later my instructors in A4, and it was a weird dynamic.
Right.
It all worked out. I mean, obviously, and you learn pretty early on that all of a sudden at some moment you got to switch on that yes or no sir respect thing. But it was still kind of weird. I was flying with this guy. It was my A4 FAM flight. So it was my first flight in the A4. I'm in the back seat. I think, no, maybe I was in the front seat. I can't remember. But anyway, he's trying to demo coming in for the break, and the TA4 or any A4 has these really weird slats. They're on rollers. It's a mechanical aerodynamic slat. And if you're not pulling properly on the stick, they can come out asymmetrically, which means, you have this huge rolling moment. And he's explaining that to me. Of course, I knew about it and we briefed it in the brief, and then he's explained it to me before he demos. And he's like, all right, here we go. And again, this is a guy I knew really well as a friend. but now he's my instructor, and we're at 15,000 feet or something, and he's going as fast as he possibly can. Snaps the plane to the left, pulls it. Of course, the slats came out asymmetrically. The plane departs, and we start, spiraling down. I'm like,
Great.
fuck. And, it wasn't a full spin or anything, but it was definitely a departure. And, we get control of the airplane back, and it's like, all right, well, that's how you don't want to do it. Okay, your turn now. So,
Don't do that.
Don't
What I
do
just showed
that.
you. Don't do that.
Yeah. So it was, I can't imagine that the, Navy Training Command is the same way now. I mean, it's,
Yeah, I don't know. A lot's changed, man. I don't know.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, I
It's a
don't
different
want
world.
people dying, but it was fun going through this kind of unregulated Wild West. Like, I don't know if you guys had the same thing. We had, this was a T2 story, but, we had a outlying field to do our CQ bounces. So preparing for the boat for literally a whole month, you go out and you just do 10 landings. The whole class goes out,
Right.
and there's, 10 people, 10 pilots in a class. So it's 10 T2s in the pattern, just going around. And then at the end of it, the instructor's like, all right, 99, gear up, head back. And none of us are, we're not naval aviators. We're not formation qualified with each other as leads. So we're 10 planes all at the same time heading back to Kingsville, which is roughly 100 miles away. We don't have a IFR ticket because we're not actually pilots. So we're not allowed to climb up, above 18,000 feet. So
You're a gaggle. You're a gaggle of
Yeah.
jets heading in one direction.
and we're all competitive.
What
so
could possibly go wrong?
We're literally like, I'm looking out the window, like, you can't go more than 250 knots below 10,000 feet. And we're like, well, I'm at 250 knots, but he's going faster than me. So I'm like, and before you know it, there's 10 jets going like 300 and some knots, and we're all trying to race each other to the break. It was just, it's insane. And of course, ATC at least one time comes up and goes, hey, whatever our call sign was, what are you showing for airspeed? 250 knots.
250.
250.
That must have a hell of a tailwind.
Yeah. But it was just, I'll never, it's never been, I can't imagine anywhere ever that is that similar to that kind of an unregulated training environment.
That is outstanding. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, these are some great stories. I want to get into some stories here in a minute about your fleet time, because rumor is you had some good times in the fleet as well. And then you partook in making a movie. So that's a little bit of a tease, but we want to thank the folks over at FTIratings.com. So that's Flight Training International, for helping us to keep these stories coming to you. So let's hear what they can do for you. Greetings to all you future airline pilots. Repeat here from So There I Was. And if you've ever aspired to pilot a commercial jet, you've got to hear about Flight Training International. Since 1993, FTI has been the front line in transforming capable military pilots into world-class commercial aviators. What sets FTI apart? Well, first off, they're simulators. We're talking full-motion FAA-certified rigs that replicate everything from an A330 to a Boeing 777. These are the same simulators used by the big names in flying, Airbus, Boeing, you name it, ensuring you train under the most realistic conditions possible. FTI's story starts with its founders, all veterans who knew the struggles of transitioning to a commercial aviation job firsthand. They experienced the inefficiencies of the traditional path and decided to forge a new one, focusing exclusively on what it takes to pilot large airliners. No more underwhelming sessions in light twins. At FTI, you train in the big leagues. Every instructor at FTI is a seasoned commercial pilot, equipped with decades of experience in both military and commercial sectors. These aren't just teachers, though. They're mentors who have navigated the very skies that you aim to conquer. They understand the complexities of modern aircraft and global routes, ensuring that you're not just certified, but truly prepared for anything the job throws your way. And there's more. FTI's training programs are meticulously crafted to accommodate your schedule. Their courses are available via an innovative iPad app, allowing you to study anytime, anywhere, whether you're on a boat, overseas, or relaxing at home. FTI brings the classroom to you. So here's the coolest part, though. You can use your VA benefits to pay your tuition at FTI. And if you mention "So There I Was" when you register, you'll receive $100 off your first course. Whether you're eyeing a type rating or the ATP certificate, FTI is your gateway to the big time. Visit FTIratings.com to start your journey. Remember, that's FTIratings.com. Flight Training International, where your career ascension begins. Nice. Thanks to FTI for helping bring these shows to you.
All right.
Yeah. So, any A4 stories? You said most of it was in the T2. Anything from the A4 before you hit out to the fleet?
No, not really. I mean, it was pretty. I think we'd gotten most of the goofiness off of us by then.
The stank, goofy stank off.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Nice. Okay.
So were you a Tomcat guy right out of the gate?
Nope. I flew A6s first.
Okay. Sweet.
Yeah.
What East Coast or West Coast guy?
West Coast, all West Coast except for the Tomcat rag. I was in VA 155, and then we decommissioned a couple years into my tour, and then I spent another 6 months with VA 145, and then they were surprise decommissioned, and then it was a little bit of a scramble to find a home. It's kind of weird. I mean, you think the military is there to take care of you, but literally they were like, all right, go find out where you want to go. See if there's a community that'll take you, or
what is that, right?
I don't know. It was so weird in retrospect again. But for me, it was an opportunity. I not so secretly wanted to fly the Tomcat ever since I had gotten that backseat ride in Miramar.
Sure.
So I was an LSO in the A6, which I absolutely loved. It was probably one of the highlights of my career, was being an LSO. So I knew all the skippers in the air wing. I knew the CAG pretty well, and CAG paddles. And I literally had to apply to go fly the Tomcat, big old 100-page package, endorsements from CAG and squadron CEOs. Yeah. It was crazy. Thankfully I got picked up for it.
So we had Yogi and what I can't think of what the pilot's name was for the A6. That the BN was partially ejected.
Oh yeah.
And,
it was Yogi and Master. Yeah.
Master.
They were on the Lincoln.
Master Biden. Yeah. And so I can't remember, were they West Coast guys or East Coast guys?
Yeah, they were.
They're West Coast. Yeah. In fact, they came and spoke. They did probably a little round robin and came and spoke to all the ready rooms. But I remember them coming to our ready room and giving us their presentation.
Okay.
This was
cool.
obviously before the internet and all that stuff. So we'd kind of heard of it, but nobody had seen anything. They brought video clips and stuff, and it was like, holy fuck.
Right.
Hearing those guys tell the story. It was Oyster, right? Was it Oyster? No, Yogi.
Yeah, Yogi and Master and
Master Bod,
and Nasty was the LSO.
Yeah, Nasty. I know Nasty pretty well.
Yeah. Do you? Okay, he's been on 4 shows with us now.
I love that guy.
Yeah.
So coincidentally, I wrote for Fighter Sweep. I was the editor of Fighter Sweep, which is a cool aviation blog. And when I was their editor, my byline was "So There I Was." Yeah, there it is.
Nice.
And I wrote a bunch of stories, and one of them is about Nasty coming into the carrier break on the Lincoln when I was there. Oh no, it was Ranger.
Was he the CAG at the time?
No. He was OPSO for VF1.
Okay.
Yeah, and his carrier breaks were just a thing of beauty, man. Best I've ever seen in my life. Saw a bunch of them.
He tells a story of coming in and doing it for the first time in the Hornet.
Yeah,
and he's used to the 14, so he does it in the Hornet. And the next thing you know, he looks on downwind, and he has to basically look over the canopy rail down to his left to see the boat because he's so
damn
thing
tight. Turn square corners.
Yeah, he just swapped ends on that Hornet.
Right.
Shit,
that's awesome.
The LSO's like, all right, come on, boss, let me show you how to do this in a Hornet. It's
Paco,
not a Tomcat.
How many hours did you get in the A6 before they put that baby to bed?
I got, I think it was 800 hours, so not quite 1,000 in the A6.
Nice.
Good. That's a good.
Yep. And then,
Talk about a Jurassic jet. It can
yeah,
haul some shit, but
it was cool. You know, I was an LSO, so when you're paddles, you're sitting on the back of the ship on the platform with pilots from all the other squadrons, and you know, Top Gun had come out not too much earlier, and
Right.
you know, the F-14s would come in. Of course, Nasty would come in for his shit hot break, and it's just a thing of beauty. Like it's like a air show. It's so pretty. And then the A6s would trundle in next, and it was just so ugly. And the guys would be, you know, the Top Gun guys would be like, "What the hell's that?" It's like shit. And I'm like, dude. And this was right after Gulf War One, so thank God, you know, there was Top Gun, but then Gulf War One, where the A6 did some really good work. And I'm like, dudes, you know, they're like, "That's a drumstick." I'm like, "That's not a drumstick. That's a war club." That's a war club.
there you go.
So it was.
That's a show title there. It was just so ugly.
It was. It's not. I mean, you threw the picture up there. It's no Tomcat, but it was great. It was a great airplane to fly. We had, you know, your buddy would sit right next to you. So I went through the RAG, you know, with close friends, and then we ended up going to the boat together. So, you know, my knucklehead BN, who I've been in the RAG with for the last 9-10 months, is taking me to the boat at night for the first time. You know, so it was a lot of fun to do that. There was a lot of trust, and it was really a BN's airplane, which is weird for pilot, but it's a BN's airplane. Like the whole thing is built around that huge radar, the terrain following radar on the front.
Yeah.
And he was just telling you what to do and where to go. So it was a cool community in that sense. It was a great airplane that did really good work, but it wasn't survivable in the modern age. So it was retired pretty early on.
Yeah.
So
But it was fun. Like you could do stuff. Sorry, man. You could do fun stuff like, you know, one of my best buddies who unfortunately passed away in a crash. You know, we'd be coming into the break, and I mean, I love this guy, and he was not a dumb guy, but somehow I got him with it every other flight. I'd be like, "Hey, check right, you know, come into the break, check the pattern to the right." He'd look right, and I'd disconnect his G suit hose and just like yank it on.
Bounce his forehead off the canopy in the break.
I made him pass out at least once. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
That was awesome. And he'd wake up and just start punching me in the shoulder. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to land.
You dick.
Hey, you can dispel, either confirm or you know, dispose of this rumor. But I was told by an A6 pilot that if you that there was if you couldn't communicate, say you lost your canopy, or there was a rapid D, there was something that, you know, you couldn't communicate with each other. If the decision to eject was, if you were gonna stay in the airplane, one of you reached over and touched, you know, grabbed the other one on the inner thigh, that means we're staying. Or if you got a fist in the chest, that means we're leaving. Does that sound anything like?
Sounds more like meet me after the flight.
Never heard of that one. I mean, it would seem fairly obvious that if I'm no longer next to you, you should probably get out.
Well,
and it didn't
yeah,
have command
there's
eject. It didn't have command
Oh,
eject.
it did not have command eject?
Not till like the last year it was in service, which is insane. But yeah, so
Yeah.
if you know, the brief was, you know, lost comm. If I'm no longer sitting next to
Yeah,
you,
you should probably leave too.
you should get out.
Hey, will you
Especially the BN.
will you
Well, yeah, that
briefly?
was my
Yeah, because he's got no controls. Hey, would you briefly describe what command eject means?
Yes. Command ejects, like in every other two-seat jet I ever flew, there was a setting in the rear ejection seat, and you could put it in like solo, I think, command eject, or individual eject. And command eject meant that if either person pulled the ejection handle, both seats would go in sequence. Usually the non-pilot would go first, and then the pilot. So, you know, the T2, TA4, certainly the Tomcat, the two-seat F5 we had command eject. So every other plane had some mode, and you know, it saved a lot of people's lives. You know, my roommate on Lincoln, Waylon Jennings, has probably one of the most famous videos on YouTube of the F-14 flying by frigate and blowing up.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, if you Google F-14 blows up on flyby, or I think that's what it is. It just pops right up. And he had a burner can, or no, it was a oil sump failure in one of the engines, and he's doing a missile profile on a frigate for training, but really there's a bunch of enlisted guys on the back of the ship with cameras, and they're all filming this super cool Tomcat flying by at like 500 feet and 600 knots. Then he pitches up, turns slightly to the right, and the plane just evaporates. Yeah. And he was still trying to fly the airplane. There's like the very tip of the F-14. Hold on, I'm going to pull my model up. Everything from here on back didn't exist anymore.
so from where the canopy, end of the canopy back.
This
gone.
part of the airplane is tumbling through space. He's a stupid ass pilot still trying to fly something that doesn't exist, and his Rio in the back seat pulls the command eject and saves both their lives with essentially zero injuries. They had a couple burns.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, holy shit.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
so you I'm sorry. Go ahead and repeat.
No, it was just gonna address the command eject, because as instructors, we would put it so the student couldn't eject us. Usually, that we would make, if we pulled the handle, we'd both go. If they pulled the handle, they would go alone.
Right.
So, just because you didn't want someone panicking with less experience.
Yep.
So, oops.
All right, Paco, did you go straight from the A6 to the F-14, and did you have a stop off somewhere like the training command, or did you do a ground to tell us what happened there?
Yeah, no, I did back-to-back sea tours. So I did a quick, 1 year in the East Coast RAG, and then right back out to sea. Yep. East
Okay.
Coast RAG for, I think it was 10 months. And then
What squadron was that?
this is VF-213, the Black Lions. Unfortunately, we had a really bad run of luck.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, they had the Black Lions had a black cloud over them for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, the whole air wing was so I was in the air wing a little over 2 years, and we lost, I think it was 9 airplanes and 6 people.
Was it that was Hulkring was in that squadron, right?
Carol Hulkring crashed the week I got there. So I in my tenure in the squadron, we lost 4 Tomcats and three aviators, but we lost like 4 Hornets, and a Prowler. There was a Prowler that crashed in Indian country. I lost 2 of those folks. So it was a rough, I felt like there was an ELT going off every 3 months.
Which boat was that? Was that the Ranger?
It was
Or the
was
Lincoln?
the Ranger was A6s. That it was the Lincoln and the Kitty Hawk.
Lincoln.
Although I think all of that stuff happened on the Ranger.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the Lincoln.
Okay, and is one of those Yogi and Master? Because
that was before I got
talked
there.
about. Oh, okay. Because Yogi and Master were talking about how it had been like a bad 2 days, and so they had especially reviewed their NATOPS emergency checklist.
Yeah.
Before takeoff.
Yeah, there was. I mean, their story. You've already heard about it, but
yeah.
The amount of stuff that had to go wrong for that to happen, and then the amount of stuff that had to go right for him not to get sliced in half when they landed.
Right.
It's just magic. It's magic.
It is.
It really was.
It's crazy. It's one of those crazy stories that only happens in naval aviation.
And if you wrote it in a novel, the editor would go, "Yeah, we're not publishing that bullshit. That couldn't happen." So
it's impossible.
Yeah. So that was episode 14. Happy birthday, Yogi.
Yeah.
That was his 26th birthday and his 100th trap. So
Hey, before we get too far away from A6s, I'm looking at a note here that says low levels over carrier. Ranger Air Wing super tight low levels over Somalia.
Over Somalia.
Yeah, so we were in the Gulf. We started up the Southern Watch thing after Gulf War One, and then right towards the end, we were supposed to do one more port call in Dubai, and we got emergency rerouted to Somalia. And the Ranger, I was on 3 different fleet carriers, and the Ranger was unique in that, well, it was old and small, but it was a great ship, with a really, really tight air wing. And I think part of the reasoning for this was like in the dirty shirt, there were only 4 top tables. So no squadron, you know how, like, I'm sure you guys, when you deployed, there was a squadron table, like a picnic bench, and there was a Naugahyde logo of the squadron on it. And even if you were all by yourself, the weird sort of psychology was you would go sit at your own table. Well, on the Ranger, we didn't have any of that, and so you just kind of ate with whoever you were in line with. It didn't matter what squadron, what community, pilots,
You just
non
sat down and
aviators.
ate.
You just sat down, and it created this super tight air wing, which I really loved. So we were really tight with everybody. And we go to Somalia, and the ROE in Somalia is we don't really know what's going on. There are a bunch of warlords. They're taking over the country. People are starving, but not because there's no food, because the warlords are taking all their food. And so we're flying support for the United Nations. And Somalia, it turns out, is an incredibly beautiful country to fly over. I've been flying over the dirt for the sand of Iraq and Saudi Arabia for the last
nothing, just brown.
Basically nothing to look at. You get to Somalia, there's rolling hills, there's fields, green fields with clearly a lot of stuff on it, and but we're not allowed to get down low and go check it out. And I'm telling the E2 guys one day, and they're not allowed to cross over feet dry, so they're staying out over the ocean. There's no air threat, so it's not that big a deal. And the guy's like, "Hey, will you drop off our screen like 100 miles in country? We don't know what's going on." And we all look at each other. We're like,
Okay.
Why don't you just give us throw a little code word out there like banana or something like that? And they're like, fucking A. So literally for the rest of our little deployment, it wasn't that long. We were only there for maybe a month. We'd fly over country. We were at 5,000 feet doing a boring, patrol. And then we'd hear the code word of the day, and we're like, and we're flying these low levels at like treetop level over Somalia. Dude. You could see like crazy shit. There's like giraffes, we're flying right by giraffes, and we were flying by these huge dirt chimneys, which it took us a while to figure out.
Anthills, right?
I think it was termite, but yeah, anthill, whatever.
Yeah,
it was some sort of critter that's made. Damn. We had we're like, what the hell was that? Yes. It was awesome. We had so much fun, just like zipping around, going all over the place, and flying low level over Somalia. And then, you'd hear the code word on the way back, like, reverse, and everybody pop up over 5,000 feet and come back into the break. So it was pretty cool. That was one of the awesome features about flying off the Ranger and in that air wing.
Nice.
Hey, you used the term dirty shirt. What does that mean?
All right. So the officers have access to usually 2, sometimes 3 wardrooms on an aircraft carrier. And a wardroom is a dining area. The clean shirt one is down in the bowels of the ship. 99% of the times, aviators don't go there because you have to shower and put on a uniform that's not a flight suit. But it's really nice, and there's cloth, tablecloths, and people that serve you. And
sailors don't spit in your chow.
Sailors don't spit in your chow. And then the dirty shirt, which is where we all eat, is you go in your flight suit, and it reeks of exhaust and jet fuel and
GP5 and sweat.
Yeah. And it's just a cafeteria style, and the food's horrendous, but it's just a raucous environment, especially at midnight. When everybody's coming back from their night carrier landings, and it's kind of a big party until about 2 a.m. So that's called the dirty shirt wardroom.
Thank you. Okay.
Nice.
Well, let's see what's next. Repeat.
Wow. So we already talked East Coast Rag and back to sea duty. Booming in SoCal, RTB from San Clemente to Miramar.
Hold on, I want to ask him what's the biggest takeaway when you went through the Rag and started flying the F-14? What was the biggest takeaway for you? Difference in those 2 airplanes. You got 800 hours, and I'm sure you you wore that A6. You put it on. You knew exactly what was going to happen. So tell me
Yeah, I felt
how it
super
was.
comfortable in the A6. Both Grumman products. So, it was interesting going through the rag again. I had to go through Cat 1, which is like you're starting over again. All brand new students to an airplane are basically called a Cat 1 student.
Okay.
And so it was super easy. All my instructors were either friends of mine from the training command or guys that I knew from the fleet or, people with friends in common.
Yeah, that makes it nice.
It was really nice. So it took a lot of that stress away. I knew I could fly an airplane, which took some of that stress away. I also knew I wanted to do well because I was the senior guy in my class. So, you have that self-imposed stress. So I worked really hard, but I knew I could do it. So it takes some of the edge away. And then flying that airplane, the cockpit was vaguely similar, like the buttons had the same shapes, but they were in different places.
Grumman,
ADI,
Grumman,
yeah. But it flew completely different. 90% of that was phenomenal. The only part which was much more difficult was landing on the ship. And there's a bunch of reasons for that. But flying the airplane, like I
wingspan being one of them, I assume.
Wingspan, yeah. We can get into it now, but so the A6 45-degree tilt to the wings or sweep to the wings. I'm sorry. A lot of drag, big ugly nose to create drag. Speed brakes out at the wingtips. J52 engines were instantaneous response. Really, really stable angle of attack. So that's your angle of attack right there. And it was just a joy to fly on the ball. Like, just rock your knuckles back and forth to get whatever RPM you needed. And the plane would just rise and settle with the motion of your hands.
That's awesome.
It was awesome. The Tomcat, much more sleek. You put the wings out. This model, the wings don't come out.
Fig, notice he doesn't have an E6 model.
Yeah, I know.
It's up on a stand.
It's a big ugly thing on the stick over there. He's not going to get it down.
Just
Sorry, Paco.
Observation.
Yeah, just a little observation.
In the A6 community, we didn't have a lot of A6s on sticks because we didn't do any BFM.
Yeah.
Anyway, super sleek. And a third of the lift comes from the fuselage. So it's like, if you look at the airplane, it's just got this huge flat body space. And even if you put when we had the cruise configured drop tanks on it, it wasn't that much drag.
The beyond a mile disappears nose on. Nose comes at you and the airplane disappears in the sky.
Yeah, it's a tennis court that goes MCON on you.
Yeah, goes away.
Yeah, it's very cool. But it was definitely a nightmare on the ball because you had all this lift and the TF30 engines, which I flew in the Tomcat, the A model, had this huge lag time. So you pull the throttles back and then you put them back up, and then like a heartbeat later, they would go. It was ridiculous. And you had to influence the nose in conjunction with the throttle movement to. If you want to pull power, you'd have to just a little bit of nose down and then nose back up. So there was a lot more coordination.
A lot of moving parts there.
A lot of moving parts. And there was I will never forget the sensation of just feeling lost. You got a little bit too much power at the start of the approach. So the ball starts to go up high as you're getting into the middle, and then you pull the power back. And you push the nose down, but nothing's happening. And you're like, okay, now I don't remember where this was supposed to be.
Oh, shit.
To be right.
Right.
And I know, I feel like, Wile E. Coyote, I'm just hanging out there, just waiting for everything to drop off, drop off the cliff. I'm like,
I could see that analogy. That's a good one.
Yeah. I know I'm about to go ball low, but I don't know when to put the power back on. So it was more difficult, but there were guys like Nasty who could. I've never seen a better ball pass than the ones that Nasty flew.
Yeah, they had magic, man.
Yeah,
so magic that shit up there.
bastard.
And he was handsome,
He still is.
I know. In fact, the guy who gave me Nasty's contact information goes, "Yeah, I wouldn't leave him alone in the room with my wife because I don't trust my wife."
Yeah, and he's got that shit-eating grin. Like,
Yeah.
like nobody enjoyed. Listen. I flew for 20 years in the military, in the Navy. I
Yeah.
fucking loved every minute of it. But nobody enjoyed it more than Nasty. He loved it. He
Right.
sweat coming out of his pores was just pure joy of aviation. It was great. It was great to witness.
Yeah, I can only imagine. We just talked to him and we never met him personally, but you could tell that dude just oozes leadership.
Yep.
So it was nice to see someone like him.
But he's
put
a
on 2
rascal
stars.
too. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
he's a rascal. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I was we had an air show on Ranger. He's gonna kill me for telling these stories, but fuck him. We had an air show, it was what's it? Oh, Tiger Cruise. When you pick up families in
sure.
Hawaii,
Okay.
and then you come home with, a bunch of the sailors go home, and you bring, I don't know, 1,000, 1,500 civilians on the ship, and they get to spend a week on the ship going back to San Diego. And Nasty, we had an air show, and I'm the tower flower for the A6 guys, and so I could see everything that's going on, and I can hear the boss. And Nasty had a problem with his kneel switch on the Tomcat. So the Tomcat, I'm gonna pull the model out again because it's badass. The Tomcat, when it went into tension on the carrier, or when it went to hook up the launch bar in the carrier, you'd have to kneel down, and then the launch bar would come down, and then it would launch off. And it was a switch in the cockpit, and it was
So
a
it would
momentary.
lower the nose of the aircraft in order for the
launch bar to
harness
come
to
down.
grab the launch bar to be
Into the
grabbed by the
shuttle.
harness.
Yep.
Okay. The
And-
shuttle. Yeah.
Yep. It was a momentary switch, just a basic, you push it forward, and the plane would kneel, and then you could, your hands would be free to do other things. And I'm watching him, and the plane would kneel and it would come back up, and it would kneel and it would come back up. And the boss, you can see the air boss is the air traffic control
Supervisor.
supervisor, the boss. He's just sitting there, and he's getting a little fidgety in his big old throne, looking over, and the air shows, there's all kinds of things happening. There's timing going on, and Nasty's like, down, up, down, up, down, up, and finally it just goes down. And he was holding the switch with like a finger, as he's doing everything else with his right hand.
Oh my gosh.
And the boss, you could see the boss like, I know what's happening. I don't know if I should let this happen, but it's Nasty. All right, I'll let it happen. And he launched off and did the air show. Of course, it was spectacular. And he comes back, and he got his ass chewed because there were so many things that could have gone wrong. Like he wasn't able to hold on to the throttles with his hands as he's launching off the ship because he's holding on to the damn kneel switch. Or if it had slipped and the plane starts to unkneel halfway down the catapult stroke, it could have spit the shuttle, and off he would have dribbled down, off the carrier at 80
Oh
knots.
yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
moving parts that
So
could
he's got to hold this switch forward against the catapult.
Yeah.
Oh, that's outstanding.
Yeah, I love it. It's like, that's so nasty. He's like, I'm going flying because this is an air show,
Yeah.
and I'm awesome. And it was.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks for that little tidbit.
Nice.
All right, booming SoCal, RTV from San Clemente.
Yeah. Again, I was the head of LSO in the squadron, the Tomcat squadron at the time. San Clemente is an island off of San Diego, about 90 miles. It's a long, skinny island that's north-south, and at the very tip of the north end of the island is a runway, 8,000-foot runway, but we just use it to simulate night carrier landing practice. So there's a tiny little lighted carrier box, the same dimensions as on an aircraft carrier, and all the other lights on the airfield are turned off. So well, you're not a student, but as a fleet aviator, to prepare to go out to sea, you do a bunch of these night carrier landing practices on San Clemente. And the joke was, the boat is good training for the rock. We called San Clemente the Rock because it was so difficult and kind of scary. Actually, it had a decent amount of wind coming over the back, and it had a burble to it, which to explain 37 different things. The burble is like the wind that comes off the back of the carrier deck.
Turbulence over the fantail.
Turbulence over the fantail and
square end for you Navy types.
Yeah. And San Clemente, I think it's 180 feet in the air, and it was always windy from the west, so it would have an excellent simulation of that. Anyway, I'm out there. I go out with a brand new Rio. Poor guy. He's my writer. Super smart guy, Carnegie Mellon engineer, awesome dude. Like, that he's like Tigger, like bouncing around, full of energy, just excited. Everything's exciting to him.
Yeah.
And there's nothing there. We're baking in it's hot as hell, even though it's the sunset. And then it gets really cold. And our Tomcats go from 4, turn 4, turn 4 to 4, turn 2, turn 1, turn 1, turn 1. So we keep losing planes to maintenance issues. And we're going way late. And it's dull as hell because we're waiting an hour for the next one jet to come out. And finally we're done because Miramar closes at the stroke of midnight. And I had just come back from deployment or workups or something. I'd been out at sea. I didn't want to have to go to North Island, which is where you would divert to if you couldn't get into Miramar, because North Island stayed up all night. And so I sent my last Tomcat back at 11:30. I jump in the van with, his name's Lucky, with Lucky. We're racing down, the darkened taxiways screech to a halt where the Tomcat is. The guys and gals on San Clemente, we called it the land of the misfit toys because it was just like they would crawl out. There was like the Navy didn't necessarily send them.
That is the perfect name for that place.
Yeah,
I'm there. You don't have to explain anything. We get it.
Yeah, they just like shuffle out from the shadows and like dragging
no.
legs and an eyeball falling out, whatever. They were great people, but they weren't the top of the breed.
Yeah, they weren't ship deployable for some reason or another. So they stuck them out there on the island.
Yeah.
It's another possible title: Land of the Misfit Toys.
Yeah. So I throw Lucky in the back seat. Again, he's just joined our squadron, and we climb up. I start the right engine, and try to lower the canopy, and it won't lower. The nitrogen in the Tomcat had the system had leaked, and the canopy wouldn't come out.
Oh no!
Like, I'm looking at my watch, and it was 11.
Fly home with the canopy open. Nope.
No.
You say 11:40?
It's 11:40. So it took me 10 minutes to get the van to the thing, and then Lucky in the cockpit, and an engine started, which is pretty good. And I see a nitrogen card. It's a big yellow 3 canister thing, 100 yards away. I'm motioning to the guys, and they're looking at me like with these vacant eyes.
Right.
And
We're not coming near that thing.
Yeah, we don't know.
They have no idea what I'm talking about. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, all right. I left my right engine running. I climbed down.
Hey, does Lucky have brakes in the back?
No.
Is there brakes?
No.
Hold on, I have to ask, what could possibly go wrong?
I don't know, but I like where this is going.
It's only
chalk.
one engine.
It's
and
fine.
It's chalk.
Yeah.
It's chalk.
It's
Yeah,
chalked.
right.
It's not going anywhere.
And the
with
parking
50,000
brake
pounds of thrust.
Come on.
All right, so the right engine's running at idle, left engine shut down. You climb out.
I climb out with the cross-country kit that maintenance had given me, and I have no idea. I've never had to use it before. And the knuckleheads bring over the nitrogen cart, and I got my little Navy issue flashlight on my vest, and I'm like looking up in the wheel well. I'm like, what the? It's just a mass of wires and cables and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell. And I see like a Schrader valve fitting, and I'm like, all right, well, let's try that. And I hook this thing up to that thing, and I hook it to that, and I start turning knobs, and gas is hissing, and I pop out, and I motion to Lucky to try the canopy, and it starts going up and down. I'm like, fucking A. All right, we got enough to get home. I get the guys out of there. It's 11:45 now. Yeah, climb back in, cross bleed the left engine, start up, lower the canopy. I'm like, yes,
Let's go.
I start taxiing before clearance because it's San Clemente. There's nobody there. Like there's a tower, but again, it's not
Yeah.
runway.
Violate me, bitch.
Yeah. So I'm taxiing out to the end of the runway, sweeping the wings open as we're taxiing at like 60 knots towards San Diego, but it's unfortunately takes off in the opposite direction. And we used to do this departure we called the Star David departure. I don't know why, but it looked cool as hell from the ground. Where you take off, it's always night when you leave because it's the whole point of being there.
Yeah.
Nighttime training.
Yeah.
You take off, do a low transition, right down the runway, full blower the whole time. Get to the end of the runway, you're doing 400, 450 knots, doing an Immelman to 16,000 feet, full blower the whole way. So it's just like this, just beautiful like rocket ship. Doing an Immelman. You're heading east towards San Diego, but you're still in blower. And I'm looking at my watch. I've got 10 minutes now, maybe a little bit less. Full blower, doing like 1.4 Mach at 16,000 feet.
Afterburner.
Afterburner, yeah.
Keep going.
And the rule is you have to be subsonic by 30 nautical miles, so that you don't,
Break shit.
boom.
Send a shockwave out.
You don't send your
Sonic
sonic boom across the continental United States because
No
nobody
breaking
likes it.
shit allowed.
No breaking shit allowed. So at 40, I'm feeling very, responsible. At 40 nautical miles, I come out of blower, and the Tomcat is super draggy. Like as soon as you come out of blower, it's like you drive a car into wet cement. It's like everything gets thrown forward, and you go from 1.4 to about 0.95 very quickly. So by the time I'm at 30 miles, I'm well below subsonic. Come in right over the airfield. Lights are still on. I'm happy about that. You do a split S to the initial point, which was called Atlas. Split S, come into the break, carrier brake 800 feet, about 550 knots. And I'm right as SoCal, the approach controller transitions us over to tower, the lights at the airfield go out.
No.
Black.
No.
I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? So
Please insert another quarter for more game time.
yeah, and it was like the dude in the tower like was waiting for the second hand to hit the stroke of midnight, and he was just like, turn the lights off, even though he knew I was coming to the break. So lucky, God bless him, super smart guy, but he was so new, his brain was basically still back on San Clemente. And I take over control of the radios from the Rio, which you're really not supposed to do, but I did. And I call SoCal up again, and I said, hey, can you jump on the phone and call these guys? They just turned the lights off. And he's like, yeah, hold on. And I'm waiting, doing 500 knots into a huge black hole. And pissed, like deeply pissed inside, because I know I have to like call my wife from the BOQ in San Diego and say, honey, I'm spending another night away from home. And all of a sudden, right as I'm over the field, the lights come on. And I don't ask for any permissions. I just go into the break and land and taxi back. And I go into, I'm climbing out of the jet again, patting myself on the back for a job well done. And my foot hits the ground, and my plane captain goes, sir, you boomed the hell out of the base. I'm like, what?
Nice.
Me? There's no way.
What?
And I look at Lucky, and I'm like, we were subsonic at 40, right? Or whatever. It's certainly at 30. And he's like, yeah, for sure.
Funny.
And I'm like, the guy who I had sent home a half hour before was super cool guy, truck. But I thought he was fucking with me because our squadron had recently gotten in trouble for boom in San Diego, coming back from an at-sea period. So I'm like, oh, he's just giving me shit because he knew I was in a hurry. So I go into maintenance, and Truck's still in there, and he's still filling out the last of his maintenance. Yeah, exactly. He's still filling out the last of his maintenance forms, and he looks at me and he goes, dude. And I'm like, what? He's like, dude. And I look at the maintenance master chief, and he's like, yeah, you boomed the hell out of the base. Car alarms are going off, windows shaking, like it was a huge boom. I'm like, holy, I mean, I can't believe it. But it's, 12:30 at this point. I don't know who to talk to, or, there's no phone calls or anything. So I go home, and we live pretty close to the base, and my wife was watching Letterman. And I walk into the bedroom. She looks up at me. She goes, was that you?
Oh,
like,
no.
oh, my God.
Oh, no.
And she's like, yeah, the windows shook. The little, shit in the cabinets was shaking. Dogs are barking in the neighborhood. I'm like, oh my god, I am so screwed. This like, I am just gonna get torn a new butthole or whatever. And so I go, I sleep in a little bit later the next morning because I was working late, and I go into the squadron at like 9 a.m. and I'm looking around, like I'm tiptoeing into the squadron spaces, just kind of waiting for the skipper to stick his head out or the opso to just start yelling at me. And lucky, nobody says anything. Lucky, oh, I'm sorry. Before I go to work, my wife, she's going to work. She plops the newspaper on the bed. Above the fold, 3-paragraph article about at 11:57 last night, a huge tremor was heard from Oceanside to Tijuana. So if you're familiar with the coast of Southern California, it's like this big crescent, and it's San Diego's in the middle, and Oceanside down to Tijuana. Oceanside to Tijuana, the National Geological Survey says there was no earthquakes. The kicker was that the Navy and the Air Force representatives both denied there were any aircraft airborne, which was hilarious. And then literally, I still have the article. I saved it, but the reporter says this reporter believes it was a secret Air Force project, Aurora, the spy plane coming back from a mission.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was it.
That was it. So that's what we went with. And nothing ever happened.
Well, because this is with the Air Force secret project. Now, Let me ask you this. Is it possible your DME equipment was malfunctioning?
No. So lucky, my genius engineer, Rio, I'm sneaking around the squadron, and he sticks his head out of one of the briefing rooms, and he's like, hey, come in here. So I go in.
Oh, boy.
And he's got charts and aviation, meteorological data and stuff like that. And he'd come in early. I love this guy. Come in early, and he couldn't sleep the night before because he's like, he also saw, our DME, and he said, we had 100-knot tailwind at 16,000 feet last night.
It was pushing the shockwave.
It not only pushed it, it magnified it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So we inadvertently magnified our shockwave and just blasted SoCal.
Oops.
Yeah.
Well done, sir. And the Air Force got the blame.
And the Air Force got the blame.
Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. That was an awesome story.
I love that.
It's fantastic.
All right. So where did you come in contact with with
Chemo-san?
With Chemo? Was that at Fallon, or were you guys in that? Would you do the same? You guys weren't in the same Tomcat squadron.
No, he was in 32. I was in 213.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in Fallon.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I was at his dead six the first time I met him, as usual.
So he said something.
That's outstanding.
I know. That's great. I'm pretty sure I was at his dead six. He said something about a Jamaican leg spreader. Is that a cocktail, or is there something
Or
else
just a cock? Asking for a friend.
Jamaican leg spreader. I don't know. I don't remember.
That was a quote. I wrote it down.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Okay.
Chemo, I mean, you guys know Chemo. He is he's nothing but, if not quotable, he is perhaps the most quotable aviator I've ever met.
But I want to make sure I got this right. The first time you met him, you were pretty sure you were at his dead six.
I'm almost positive. I spent a lot of time there. It was like a private parking spot.
Outstanding.
So we had probably like just the most amazing collection of aviators in that squadron. A really, really great pilots. I mean, people who went to that squadron really wanted to be there because it had just come from Miramar. In 96, the Navy gave Miramar to the Marines, and they moved Top Gun and VFC-13 up to Fallon. And a few of the guys that were in that squadron were like, I'm not going to Fallon, and flying F-5s because they'd been flying Hornets. So those of us that were there loved BFM. We were all there because we loved BFM. And it was like
BFM, what's that stand for?
It's basic fighter maneuvers. Dogfighting is, the colloquialism, but we loved to dogfight. And that's why we were all there. And it was the flying club of all flying clubs. You could show up Like I was a reservist by the time I got there. I could show up, and I frequently did, on say like a Monday morning, and I wasn't on the flight schedule till 3 p.m. and I'd show up at 11, and I would look around the ready room and say, "Anybody want to go BFM?" And a couple guys would raise their hands. I would call maintenance and say, "Hey, you guys got any spare jets?" And the F5, it was always up. That was one of the magic things about the F5. They had 20 some F5s, and they were always working.
Wow.
And then I would call the range and say, "Hey, you guys got any airspace? I just need like a corner of one of the little airspaces. I don't need the whole thing. I just need a sliver." And 9 times out of 10, they'd have something. And so we'd write literally in pencil on the flight schedule, add another event
Wow.
to go do a BFM flight. And it was awesome.
That's outstanding.
40-minute sortie of nothing but fighting.
We could take off and be back on deck in 30 minutes and get 3 engagements in the F5.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, because his airspace is sitting right there. Right?
Yeah, it was
I mean,
20
take
miles.
off
Like
and
you
you're
could
there.
lose your engine and almost, coast back in.
Yeah.
So you take off, slight jink to the right, climb at 60,000 feet, tack turn, cross over into Dixie Valley, G warm, 16,000 feet, fights on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dixie Valley.
Yeah.
Had some-
Right.
had
Some
some
of the
good
best
times there.
flying on the planet.
I
was
know,
great.
right?
And then, the worst part was that we deployed a lot. It was really brutal. We'd have to go to Key West every other month for a week.
Well, that's horrible.
Oh,
Hold on, Key West. How did you
Yeah.
survive that?
I don't know.
Mosquitoes there and God
Yeah.
knows what else.
Yeah,
Wow.
there it is. Yeah.
Wow. So
So
you spent some time inverted in that, as I recall, from the very beginning tease.
Oh yeah.
that's
Yeah,
true.
so what's up with that?
What happened?
Yeah.
What happened? Why are you
Yeah.
upside down?
Exactly.
Why's a glass in your neck?
Yeah, I was coming back from across country. So I got the jet for the weekend, and I live here in the Bay Area, and the jet was in Moffett. So I was flying from Moffett back to Fallon. And our CO at the time really wanted us to log approaches and stuff to justify these cross countries. So I'm flying an approach into Reno on the way back to Fallon. And the F5 could be very primitive. The F5s we ended up with, the F5Ns were not. They were relatively speaking quite sophisticated, but at the time, this was a very primitive F5. It didn't have any anti-lock, anti-skid on the landing gear.
Yep.
I mean, even the cheapest, crappiest car has it now, but we did not. It had one radio, and it was just an airplane. And I'm coming over the Sierras, which are pretty high mountains, and Reno is tucked right up against the mountains. And I was trying to pull up ATIS. It was a beautiful day, gorgeous, unrestricted visibility, no clouds. But what I didn't know, because I couldn't get the ATIS in time, was that there was a 30-knot, 90-degree crosswind. I didn't find that out till I was, I don't know, on short final when I'm talking to Tower. And, I was planning on, touching down, rolling out to the end of the runway, getting back in line, because Reno wouldn't let you just do a touch and go for a practice approach. You have to land and get back in line. So they have a 13,000 foot inboard runway and a 9,000 foot outboard runway. And I'm lined up on the long runway, and I hear Tower call the winds, and I'm like, but I knew that the F5 NATOPS crosswind limit was 35 knots. So I'm like, no big deal. And so I'm coming in to land, and I see a bunch of 737s coming out to take off, and Tower says, "Hey, do you mind going to the outboard runway?" I'm like, "Sure, no big deal. I'm at 5 miles or so." And I line up on the outboard 9,000 foot long runway. And as I'm about to touch down, one of the airplanes is taking off, and the turbulence from the engines and the airplane taking off rolls across the threshold where I'm about to touch down, and I goose the power. So because the crosswind
Crosswind blew it over there. Yeah.
I goose the power, so now I'm a little fast, and I'm floating down the runway, and I finally touch down. When I touch down at about, I don't know, 1,500, it was a fair I'm out down the runway. I think I touched down with 6,000 feet remaining. But slowing down, it should have been fine. I've stopped the F5 in, much less distance than that. But I touched down, and my left tire, the upwind tire, immediately blew. But I didn't know it. I had no idea because the wind was kind of holding that wing up. And so I'm rolling, the F5, you just aero brake till you get to about 100 knots, and then you put the nose down, and then you apply the foot brakes. And so I'm aero braking. Again, there's no sort of thumping of the rubber. Yeah, there it is. There's no thumping of the rubber or anything like that. As I'm rolling down the runway, it just feels totally normal. And I lower the nose and I put my feet on the brakes, and the left brake just goes to the floor. It just immediately, there's no resistance at all. It just snaps all the way to the metal. And now I'm cooked because I'm too slow to take off again. And I can't eject because of the crosswind limits. There's no long field gear, so I can't drop the hook and stop myself. And so I'm just, you can see there's the upwind. Yeah. And that picture's reversed. So it's the left.
Yeah.
The left tire was the one that was shredded. And so I'm keeping it on the runway. Yeah, there you go. The left one is, you can see it's just metal there. The one on the right eventually popped because it overheated. And so for about 3,000 feet or so, I'm just skidding along on metal. Both tires are gone. And I'm just keeping it on center line with nose wheel steering. Just like really gentle inputs. It felt like I was on ice.
Oh yeah.
And it was my birthday. It happened to be my birthday.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's
Of
starting
course.
to be a theme too. Happy birthday, Yogi.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Paco.
Yeah. My rebirthday. And I'm skidding down the runway long enough because I'm supposed to go to Fallon, get a ride back to Reno, and go home because my wife's throwing me a birthday party. And I'm skidding down the runway long enough thinking like, man, I hope I'm not late for my party. My wife's going to be pissed.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that anticlimactic. There wasn't a lot of drama to it at the moment. And, the last taxiway exit, I'm probably doing 20 knots. And I thought for a second about trying to grab that, but I just felt like the plane would have just done a bunch of donuts. And then there was 800 feet of overrun and then gravel. And I just remember my last thought going off into the gravel was, fuck, now they're going to have to bring a truck out with new tires from Fallon. It's going to take me forever to get out of here.
Yeah,
Or a new airplane.
So I, very conscientiously shut the engines down as I went off the end of the runway. And the left main mount, there was a tiny little bit of side slip as I was going off. The left main mount dug into the gravel, and the plane kind of heaved up on a wing. And I'll never forget sort of looking down at the gravel, and it was like this sort of inflection point, like, is it going to just flop back down or keep going over? And it had just 1 or 2 knots too much, and it just flipped all the way over. The canopy glass shattered. I had enough momentum moving forward that, the canopy bow kind of looks like this. It's an arm that goes out, then up and over, and then mirror image on the other side. Well, the glass shattered. The middle part of the bow had these razor sharp teeth of plexiglass, and there was enough momentum that it bent back and it caught me right here in the neck, this like arrow.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So I came to a stop upside down with a big thing of plexiglass sticking in my neck, and the canopy shattered. Just sort of surprised because, like I said, it was a long accident happening up until that moment, and then all of a sudden everything bad happened.
Yeah, at once.
And I was just sort of really stunned. I'm like patting at my neck, and there's blood there. I'm like, holy crap, am I bleeding out? But thankfully, it didn't hit the jugular, just enough to cut the skin and
Good
not go
Lord.
I know. And so I sat. I made sure the plane was all safed up. Everything was, ejection seats were pinned and batteries off and stuff like that. Actually, no, before I turned the battery off, as I'm sort of patting at my neck, tower goes, Saint 99 or whatever my call sign was, you are not on fire. And I was like, fire, just
You
I
said
hadn't
fire?
even, I
say
hadn't even
fire.
thought about being on
Wait.
fire.
Right?
Yeah. So
Not
I
a
tried
good time to
climb
have to
out.
eject.
No. That was my next big fear, was like the ejection seats going off and me being upside down. So I tried to climb out, but that big jagged piece of plexiglass was catching on my ribs. I had a bruise or a mark on my ribs for about not quite a year after that. From
Well, how long did it take them
Whoa.
to extricate you out of that
took them
situation?
forever. So I finally gave up on crawling out. The parachute was getting in the way, and the F5, unlike most Navy airplanes, the F5 you carry the parachute with you. There you go.
Yeah.
You carry the parachute with you. It's a very Air Forcey thing to do.
Yeah.
And I finally gave up. I couldn't wrestle my way out of it. So I sat back and upside down in the airplane, like I snuggled myself back in, and I just crossed my arms. I was just fuming mad. I was so pissed off. I'm like, oh, I can't believe this happened. Son of a bitch. And I just sat there for what felt like forever. And finally a cop car pulls up, the airport security pulls up. And the guy gets out. He's holding one of those big old 32-ounce, cups of coffee from 7-Eleven or whatever, and he squats down. He's looking at me, and I'm just pissed. So I'm sitting there with my
Sir,
arms
you're not
closed.
authorized to invert your airplane off the end of the runway.
Yeah. And he walks up to the cockpit and he looks at me, and I'm like looking back, and he goes, I thought you were dead. That's the first thing he says. Like, well, I'm not. Can you get me out of this thing? So eventually they had to come out. The fire guys finished their barbecue and came out and got the jaws of life, and they had to snip the canopy bow, and then I squirmed out. And my flight bag was in the nose cone of the F5 on the left side, so the side that it was resting on, so I couldn't reach my cell phone. And I borrowed the paramedic's cell phone. I called my wife. I'm like, hey. And as I'm calling her, there's a wall at the end of the airport perimeter at the end of the runway there in Reno. And I could see like the little, telescoping camera from the news crew coming up over the top of the wall. I'm like, I just want to let you know I'm all right. Don't watch the news.
Because I'm on channel 7 right now.
Yeah.
Damn it.
So, yeah.
KTVU.
That was not a highlight, but I lived, and I've got here. I don't know if you can see this, but as a gift, the squadron gave me the Alpha probe. You can't see that, can you?
Is it above the window? Is it above the
off the-
window?
Above
Alpha
the
probe
window. It's
yeah.
and
Alpha
it's
probe
got like
off the nose.
It's bent like a fish hook.
Nice.
It's very kind of
Well,
mine.
doggone it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, now listen, Paco. We've been at this for going on almost 2 hours, and
Yeah.
I don't want to wear you down too much. We probably ought to think about wrapping.
Yeah, we should land this airplane and then I want to do a quick story about some BFM with Chemo, so you can really
Okay.
trash him in the after show. But
Sure.
yeah. But first thing we want to do is thank you for your service.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you guys as well.
Yeah, we deeply
You
appreciate
you
it.
made a movie, Speeding
did.
Angels.
Yeah.
And I actually went and perused it a little bit. So would you say it's more of a like a documentary?
It is 100% a documentary. It's all real. There's nothing scripted about it. Yeah.
In what year was that? What motivated you to do that? First of all,
Well, I've got a little bit of a creative bent to me. I've written a book as well, a novel, a naval aviation novel. And I had written a screenplay like in the early 2000s to try to get made. And I got no traction on it, a naval aviation screenplay. So I was like, fuck, I'm going to make my own movie.
All
Screw
right.
them. So a friend of mine is a director, and I convinced her. She's a very normal, non-military loving San Francisco film director. And I'm like, do you want to make a movie about Navy fighter pilots? She's like, no, that sounds ridiculous. So I'm like, just come to Fallon with me. Just bring your camera.
Make a
come to
movie
Fallon.
about me.
Exactly.
Let's talk about me.
And so she comes out to Fallon for a weekend. My skipper at the time, Buckethead, I don't know if you guys knew him. He's kind of a famous naval aviation dude. He's in the movie. He's a great guy, great American. he was like, absolutely, let's see what we can get. And totally off the books. He's like, lets me bring the camera up in the airplane and film a bunch of cool stuff. And Peyton, her name is Peyton, filmed a bunch of Navy dudes in the ready room, telling stories, shooting the shit, kind of like this. And she is smitten. She's smitten by everything. Like, Fallon is a kind of a crazy, cool looking place. The Saints were like, ninjas of dogfighting at the time. It was a skill that was more valued back then than it is now, really. The flying is cool. Jets are cool. And so she jumps on board, and I raised a bunch of money from private investors and fought a multi-year battle with the Navy public affairs folks to get permission. They gave us permission right away to do all the documentary stuff, but to actually recreate dogfighting and put cameras in airplanes took 2 to 2.5 years to get permission for. I had to go to.
I can't even imagine.
Oh, dude, it literally.
Did you have to go straight to the CNO for that shit?
Not quite the CNO. It was the Air Boss, the 4-star. I had it, but it took 2 years to see him. And once I finally did, it was a 15-minute interview. I showed up fully prepared with all the stuff that we were going to do. And he was like, this sounds awesome. And so, in the interim, the movie changed from what it was originally intended, where we thought it was going to be about the Saints and BFM and how cool flying is, to the journey of 2 young F-14 pilots, the two of the last kids to go through F-14 training, Jay and Megan. And they're just, it's obvious in retrospect, but their journey, and you guys know this, you show up in the RAG as like a kid who knows nothing, thinks he's cool, just got his wings. And at the end of it, a year later, you're now a warfighter. And literally, Jay actually goes to combat 10 days after showing up. 10 days after finishing the RAG, he's in Iraq, strafing, trying to save some Army guys on the ground. And it's all in the film. It's just a really dramatic year in a young aviator's life. And we were blessed to capture it all on camera.
I'm going to watch the whole damn thing now.
It's great. I'm telling you, you'll love it. And surprisingly, non-aviators love it as well. Most like our highest demographic was women, professional women. One of our characters is or whatever, the personalities is a woman, but it's just the amount of passion, dedication that we as naval aviators have to our craft, the amount of love we have for each other, for what we do, for our dedication to duty. It all shines through in a way that's not preachy. It's just very organic to the story.
That sounds awesome, man.
Yeah. And the drama, all the CQ stuff is in there. It's all great. We've got a lot of cool permission. We're the first, I think, the only independent film ever authorized by the Department of the Navy.
That's pretty cool. What was the name of the book that you wrote?
There it is. Lines of the Sky. I think I have a copy of it somewhere around here. There it is. That's nice. It. That's awesome. That's a naval aviation thriller. It's like a awesome summer reader. Should be made into a movie.
Nice. Very cool.
All right.
Great.
Well, there's not enough. I mean, there's more I want to hear, especially about how often you had the permanent parking spot behind chemo. So, this is just a tease for we're going to have both you guys on and recount some of the Saints, day-to-day buffoonery and so on and so forth, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you for all your stories, by the way.
My pleasure.
I anticipated a good interview, and boy, I was not disappointed. And unfortunately, it's like, man, we're at the 2-hour mark, and then and it happened so fast because when you're listening and talking and listening to great stories, time flies.
It does. I'm blown away. I'm sorry about the technical problems at the beginning, but
well, get your shit together because you're gonna have to come back, and we can't deal with 30 minutes worth of bullshit, Paco. We got to have our shit wired right from the start.
There you go.
I'm totally pushing you.
Yeah. We got some other thank yous we got to get out there though, Fig.
Okay.
Thank you for all the veterans who served, and for all the families who helped them to serve, and for those on active duty. We're deeply appreciative for all of those who continue to make our freedoms possible. So,
Absolutely.
thank you. Yeah.
Big shout out to Dave Hamilton.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate Dave for all he does for us. He also has the Mac Geek Gab, the Gig Gab, and the Business Brain. So 3 shows of his worth listening to.
We got to also thank our producer in the background there, Sticks, who's been making this video presentation look so damn professional with all the pictures and captions keep popping up.
Get stuff up practically before
Since
we
we're
think of
talking
it.
about Sticks, if you have a question, you can email us fig@sothereiwas.us or repeat at sothereiwas.us. But if you want a really good answer, it's sticks@sothereiwas.us, because he is truly a very intelligent individual.
Yeah, and hit him up. He's bored. Hit him up.
Yeah,
with
because he's
lots
got
of
nothing
questions.
to do in his spare time.
Yeah.
I can see him squirming.
Ah, crap. So,
Yeah.
Hey, we've got a Facebook page too, facebook.com/sothereiwas.us, and Caesar's girlfriend modeled our bikini from the merch store, sothereiwas.us/merch. Fantastic. So
Yes. Thank you.
thank you very much for that.
She looks a
there,
lot like
Caesar.
that model.
Yeah.
I mean, she makes the bikini look a lot like that model in the picture.
That's right. That's right. So, also we have the glossary. So there was the US/glossary. If you have some terms that we didn't cover in the glossary or we didn't talk about today, like MOA, military ops area, then, write us and tell us, and we'll get it in there for you.
I think we covered a couple new terms as well. Underrun. We talked about 10-second go. I don't know if we've ever talked about that before, but
I don't know that we have. Yeah.
And we mentioned the Jamaican leg spreader again, but we really didn't get any
Maybe we'll
finality
talk about
on
that in the post
We'll
show
have to come
real
back.
quick.
Yeah, we'll have to reattack that.
Yeah. Exactly.
We'll need chemo for
thanks
that
also to Badass.
Badass Brad
Silcott.
Silcott. Thank you for all the pictures and the swag.
Aviationphotography.com. Cool swag. Thank you, sir, indeed. So deeply appreciative of that. And then there's a couple people picking guitars, picking and grinning in the background there, Fig. Who's that?
That's the Air Force F-16 pilots that make the Air Force sound good. That's the Dos Gringos.
They do indeed. They do indeed. Well, this has been fun this week, folks. Sorry for all the technical stuff at the beginning, but we're up and done. Go to stereos.us/rate and give us a 5-star rating. Not 4, not 3. Give us a 2 or a 1. We're going to hunt you down. Don't
Send
do
Paco after you with the Jamaican
it. That's
leg
right.
spreader.
Whoa.
Whoa!
Oh,
I can still hear you.
make it happen. That's right. All right, everybody. Till next week, stay safe and check 6.
You feel it.
Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. 'Cause when you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
Hold on. He said what?
He said it's over.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's a lawsuit.
And we're out. All right. Boom. Everybody, we're running a little behind, so I'm going to end the live stream. Thank you so much there, Badass. Appreciate it. Dizzy. And let's see. Yeah, that's it. Those are the comments for now. Thank you so
Paco,
much, everybody. Going to end the live
Paco.
stream so we can all upload.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Here
Awesome.
we go.